A sharp mind doesn't look like what you think. It isn't the loud one with the fastest opinion. The genuinely sharp mind is usually the quiet one in the corner, the one who pauses, who isn't rattled, who sees 3 moves further than everyone else in the room. Most people never get there, not because they aren't smart enough, but because no one taught them the habits that separate a clear mind from a noisy one. They run on reaction, pulled by every emotion, every notification, every opinion that floats past. The Stoics trained the mind the way a soldier trains the body, deliberately, daily, against resistance. The habits they drilled 2,000 years ago are the same ones that, today, put a mind in the top 1%. In the next few minutes, I'll give you 7 habits that prove your mind is sharper than 99% of people. Stay to the end, because the 7th is the one almost no one can do, and the one that matters most. The dullest minds react instantly. The sharpest pause. When something provokes you, an insult, bad news, a message that makes your chest tighten, the ordinary mind fires back on reflex. The words are out, the damage is done, all before any thinking happened. That's not strength. That's a mind driven by whatever pushed it last. A sharp mind puts a gap between the trigger and the response. In that gap, it actually thinks. Is this true? Does this deserve a reaction? What's the wise move here, not the fast one? The pause looks like hesitation to people who don't understand it. It's where all the intelligence lies. The Stoics built their entire practice in that gap. Epictetus taught, "It is not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." The events come at everyone the same. The sharp mind is the one that owns the moment between the event and the answer. Watch 2 people get the same offensive message. The first replies in 10 seconds, heated, and spends a week cleaning up what those 10 seconds cost. The second reads it, sets the phone down, and responds, if at all, from a place of complete control. One was a slave to it, the other its master. The pause is the cheapest superpower there is, and the rarest because everyone confuses speed with intelligence. The action. The next time something provokes you, do nothing for 1 full breath before you respond. Just 1. In that breath, ask whether the reaction rising in you is wise or just fast. Most minds can't tolerate discomfort, so they flee it the second it appears. A problem gets difficult, an answer doesn't come quickly, the uncertainty gets uncomfortable, and the ordinary mind reaches for relief. It grabs the first easy answer. It changes the subject. Picks up the phone to make the feeling go away. It would rather have a wrong answer that ends the discomfort than sit in the open question long enough to find the right one. A sharp mind can stay in the hard place. Tolerates not knowing. It lets a problem stay unsolved and turns it over patiently, because the best answers rarely arrive on the first pass, and rushing to comfort guarantees a shallow one. The Stoics trained themselves to sit with difficulty on purpose. Seneca practiced voluntary hardship to prove discomfort was survivable, and he wrote, "It is not because things are difficult that we do not dare. It is because we do not dare that things are difficult." The daring is staying in the hard thing long enough to crack it. Think of 2 people facing the same knotty decision. The first wants the tension gone, so they pick whatever ends it fastest. The second sits in the unresolved space for a day or 2 and arrives at something the first never could have reached. Patience with discomfort isn't a personality trait. It's a trained skill, and the engine of every deep answer. The mind that can't sit with hard things stays forever in the shallow end. The action. The next time you feel the itch to escape a hard problem with the first easy answer, name it. Say, "This is just discomfort, not danger." Then stay in the problem 10 minutes longer than feels comfortable. The weak mind defends its position. The sharp mind updates it. Most people treat their beliefs like property. Once they've stated an opinion, admitting it was wrong feels like losing something, so they dig in and twist every new fact to fit the conclusion they already reached. They confuse being consistent with being right, and they'd rather be consistently wrong than correct themselves. A sharp mind holds its beliefs loosely, like tools, not treasures. When better evidence shows up, it lets the old belief go without grief because it cares more about what's true than about having been right. The ability to say, "I've changed my mind," without it feeling like a wound is a mark of real intelligence. Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man in the world, held himself open to correction. If anyone can refute me, show me I'm making a mistake or looking at things from the wrong perspective, I'll gladly change. It's the truth I'm after, and the truth never harmed anyone. The emperor would rather be corrected than be wrong. That's the posture of a mind that's actually growing. Picture two people shown clear evidence they're mistaken. The first gets louder, reframes, attacks the source, anything to avoid the words, "I was wrong." The second goes quiet, looks at the evidence and says, "You're right. I hadn't seen that." The second person didn't lose the argument. They upgraded their mind in real time, while the first chained themselves to a sinking position to protect an ego. Your beliefs aren't you. The willingness to trade a worse one for a better one is. The action. Find one belief you hold strongly and ask honestly, what evidence would change my mind? If the answer is nothing could, that's not conviction. That's a blind spot. Go looking for the other side. The cluttered mind wastes itself on things it was never going to be able to move. Watch where an ordinary mind spends its energy. The economy, other people's opinions, the weather, the past, what might go wrong years from now. It churns endlessly over things outside its reach, and that churn is exhausting and produces nothing. The mind ends each day drained by battles it never could have won. A sharp mind does triage. It asks one question about everything in front of it. Is this in my control or not? If it isn't, it sets it down, not out of laziness, but because spending energy there is pure waste. Then it pours everything it has into the narrow band it can affect. That focus is why it accomplishes so much while seeming so unbothered. This single distinction is the foundation of the entire Stoic philosophy. Epictetus opened with it. Some things are in our control and others not. Things in our control are opinion, pursuit, desire, aversion, and, in a word, whatever are our own actions. Things not in our control are body, property, reputation, command. Master that line, he said, and you become unshakable. Think of two people facing a delayed flight. The first spends 2 hours furious, refreshing the screen, ranting at the desk, raising their blood pressure over something no amount of anger can change. The second accepts the delay in 10 seconds, opens a book, and uses the time. Same situation. One mind was at war with reality. The other simply noticed it couldn't win that war and redirected. Half of mental clarity is just refusing to fight battles that aren't yours to fight. The action. When something starts eating at you, ask the question before anything else. Is this in my control? If it isn't, practice setting it down on purpose. Save your energy for the pile you can actually move. Most people are run by feelings they never even notice are there. The anger, the anxiety, the wounded pride, the craving. The ordinary mind doesn't see these as visitors. It mistakes them for itself. So when anger arrives, the person becomes angry and acts on it. When fear arrives, they obey it. They're puppets, and the strings are emotions they never learned to look at directly. A sharp mind creates a small distance from its own feelings. It notices them. Ah, I'm feeling defensive right now. That's jealousy talking. And in the act of naming the emotion, it stops being swept away by it. The feeling is still there, fully felt, but it no longer drives. The mind watches it the way you'd watch weather pass. The Stoics drew a hard line between the first flash of feeling and the choice to act on it. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. The power isn't in never feeling. It's in seeing the feeling clearly enough to choose what to do with it." Picture two people who feel a hot flash of jealousy when a colleague gets promoted. The first doesn't recognize it, so it leaks out as sarcasm, a sour mood they can't explain. The second feels the same flash, names it silently. That's envy, and it's not useful. And lets it pass without it touching a single action. One was driven by an emotion they couldn't see. The other saw it and stayed free. You can't control what you feel. You can control whether the feeling gets the wheel. The action. Next time a strong emotion rises, label it in one quiet sentence before you do anything. This is anger. This is fear. The naming creates the gap, and the gap is where your freedom lives. The short-sighted mind optimizes for today and pays for it for years. Most people make decisions inside a tiny window. What feels good now, what's easy now, what soothes this afternoon. They take the comfortable choice today and never connect it to the cost it loads onto next year. Their whole life is a chain of small surrenders to the present moment, and they can't see why it never adds up to anything. A sharp mind zooms out. It asks not what do I want now, but what will I have wanted, looking back from 5 years out. It can suffer a little today for a lot tomorrow because it sees the tomorrow clearly. This long view is why it quietly outpaces everyone busy chasing the immediate. The Stoics trained themselves to see the wide frame. Marcus Aurelius set his choices against the scale of time. Think of the whole universe of matter and how small your share. Think about the expanse of time assigned to you and how brief. Against that scale, the urge of the moment loses its grip, and the decisions that matter come into focus. Watch two people with the same paycheck. The first spends every dollar on what feels good this week and stays exactly where they are for a decade. The second lives a little below their means and, after 10 years of looking dull, suddenly looks unstoppable because compounding finally became visible. The difference was never income. It was the length of the timeline each mind was running on. Almost every bad decision is a short timeline winning a fight it should have lost. The action, before your next meaningful choice, ask one question. How will I feel about this in 5 years? Let the older version of you cast the deciding vote, not the one who only feels today. Here is the habit almost no one can do, and the one that proves everything else. Take away the phone, the noise, the people, and leave a person alone with nothing but their own thoughts. Most cannot last 5 minutes. The silence becomes unbearable, because in it they have to meet themselves, and they've spent their whole life avoiding that meeting. So they reach for anything. A screen, a snack, anyone to talk to. Anything to not be alone in their own head. A sharp mind can sit in that silence and be fine. More than fine at home. Can think without input, examine its own life without panic. This is the rarest ability of all because it can't be faked and can't be bought. Either you can be alone with your mind or you're running from it, and the running shapes every choice you make. Seneca traced nearly all human restlessness back to this one inability, and the diagnosis still cuts. All of humanity's problems stem from man's inability to sit quietly in a room alone. The noise people chase isn't entertainment. It's escape, and the mind that needs no escape is the mind that's finally free. Picture two people with an unexpected free hour and no obligations. The first feels a low panic at the empty time and fills it, scrolling, calling someone, anything to avoid the quiet. The second sits down with their own thoughts and finds the hour rich. One is haunted by their own company. The other has made peace with it, and that peace is the foundation under every clear decision they'll ever make. A mind that can't stand its own company never thinks clearly, because it never stops running long enough to. The action. Tonight, 10 minutes. No phone, no music, no noise. Just you and your own mind. It will feel uncomfortable, maybe unbearable at first. That discomfort is the exact thing separating you from the top 1%. Sit in it anyway. So, 7 habits that prove your mind is sharper than 99%. You pause before you react. You sit with hard problems without rushing to comfort. You change your mind when the facts change. You separate what you can control from what you can't. You read your emotions instead of obeying them. You think in long timelines. And you can be alone with your own mind without flinching. Notice what they all have in common. Not one is about raw intelligence or how fast you can talk. Every single one is about control, the quiet, trained ability to govern your own mind instead of being dragged around by it. That's what separates a sharp mind from a noisy one. And every habit on this list can be built by anyone willing to practice it. The sharpest people you've ever met weren't born that way. They drilled these habits on ordinary days until clarity became their default. You can start today, not with a grand resolution, but with one pause, one named emotion, one quiet evening alone. If even one of these reached you, do one quiet thing for yourself. Subscribe, and let this channel be a small daily reminder to sharpen the one tool that decides everything else. Practice the 7th tonight. 10 minutes. Just you and your own mind. And remember, the The sharpest mind in any room is almost always the quietest, because it spends its energy thinking instead of being heard.